to get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets up center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Ilya able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal.
Three in the face, 1-1. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Korea!
Hey everybody, Ducks fans, we are back to talk about the 8th straight loss. And that's it. That's all. That's a show for tonight, everyone.
Good night. It was great talking to both of you from across the pond. Not really, but
that game tonight, boys, was brutal. The Ducks fall to the Edmonton Oilers 4-0. And was probably the softest performance defensively I've seen from this team in quite some time. And that's saying something considering they're on an 8-game losing streak. But I'm Patrick, and we got Eddie and Jay joining on the show tonight. So we're all three here, and we all watched that game entirely just for you guys so we could talk about this here. So how are you guys doing? You feeling good?
No. I took an early bus to get home to watch this game, and not a fun one to have to get home early to watch.
No offense, but you just sounded like that one parent from the original Mighty Ducks movie. This is what I gave up my overtime for. Watch my kids taking dives. Yes. But yeah, no, that was a rough one. I felt about halfway through the game, and I'm like, I have to keep watching. I guess I have to.
Well, what a way to put a cherry on top of Cam Fowler's return to the lineup nonetheless, right? Ducks just couldn't get anything together. This first period was awful. But before we get there, a few strange things happened in the lineup. Randy Carlyle searching for answers here, puts the little line blender together with Cam Fowler coming back in. Puts Ondrej Kase on the top line that I kind of thought was going to happen. And I know that we talked about it the past couple of shows, guys, and I was like, nah, he's not going to do that because, Henrique and Richie and Kase have been fired together. Mm-hmm. Puts Kase up on top with Aberg to start the night. And then the big one was they sat Jacob Larsson. I don't understand that. I mean, they keep Andy Welinski up and Josh Mahoney, and then Fowler and Manson together, and then they put Montour and Lindholm together. But why scratch Jacob Larsson, who I don't think has been all that bad during this stretch? He's played a ton of games, and in favor of two guys that I think have actually looked suspect in this current streak. So what are your guys' feelings on the starting lineup?
I mean, the forward group, I guess you're trying to search for something when the Ducks can't score any goals at all. We've seen Ondrej Kase work with Ryan Getzlaf before, so that makes sense, and then some minimal changes up front. But yeah, I think it was weird bringing out Jacob Larsson. We had the flurry of moves down to the goals today. I think it was Street, Dachin, and somebody else got sent down as well. And then Mahura playing over Larsson, I think, is the suspect one for me. I guess they wanted to go with three righties, and that's why Welinski plays, because Dachin gets sent down. But I probably would have went with Larsson just if you're looking at a team who has such offensive powerhouses up front, like Connor McDavid and Nugent-Hopkins has played really well, and Draisaitl was on Connor McDavid's line today as well. Maybe you go with the two-way, more responsible guy in Jacob Larsson than Josh Mahura, who lately has got caught up the ice a couple times.
Yeah, I think between Kase and Sprong, you can kind of throw one in the other, just see who's hitting a little bit more. And I was really optimistic that Kase would end up working out. He got a lot of good looks through most of the game, and especially early on when he was on that line. It just didn't quite pan out, but I felt like kind of wherever you put him, it's going to work. It was a little surprising, but at some point, whatever was working isn't working. You got to try and find something to, just kickstart the offense, because the defense really hasn't been the problem. It's been the lack of offense, and that continued tonight.
Yeah, I mean, but this is an Oilers team that's not been playing well. So I've kind of felt like maybe the lineup should have kind of stayed put and to see how it went. And then maybe you got to mix things up as you go. I mean, sitting Larson just didn't sit well with me at all. I wasn't happy with Welinski Mahura last game whatsoever, so it was just strange to me. I don't know. Anyway, we got to get to this shit show that happened in the first period because, I mean, the broadcast like to talk up how well they thought the Ducks were playing because the shots on goal metrics looked good. But that net front presence was just god-awful, and it's really unfortunate because the Ducks, out the gate for several minutes, controlled play, got in tight on Cam Talbot and put some shots on net, looked a little dangerous here and there. But it wouldn't take long, and of course, why wouldn't it be McJesus to score the first damn goal of the night from below the goal line with a guy stick checking him rather than burying him in front of the net. Gibby's posted up. Puck still squeaks by from the side of the net there, and also the Ducks are down 1-0 thanks to Connor because the Ducks don't want to. They would rather play tag than play hockey tonight.
Yeah. Against the best player in the National Hockey League.
One of the best, I'd agree.
Yeah. But no, you can't do that with Connor McDavid. You can't loosely try and check him. You can't half-ass it. You have to go 100% against him. You got to clear him out of the crease. And he made them pay on this one. He can put the puck in the net from anywhere, and he banks it in off John Gibson because he's given just a little bit of space to make something happen. And that's really all he needs is that tiny bit of space to put the puck in the back of the net, and he does. And I felt a little bit at fault for having the Forever Mighty Three Stars third question of, is Connor McDavid going to have a multi-point night? I don't even know if he did, honestly. I haven't really checked.
He did not. He only had that goal.
But I early on, he scores in the first period. I thought he was going to go off and get a hat-trick or something.
Yeah, that blows for John Gibson because his glove is on the inside of the post. If his glove's on the outside of the post, it hits him in the glove, and there's no way it goes in. The unfortunate part is that he has to try and reach because he had to reach once with the leg pad, twice with the glove, trying to just hold that post, and you just get whatever you can as close to the post. Unfortunately, his glove actually goes inside of the post, and if it's outside of the post, it can hit him where it did, which was the palm, and then out. Unfortunately, it hits him in the palm because he's on the inside. That ricochets right into the net, and he's kind of screwed. He probably wishes he had on the outside, but he probably also wishes McJesus didn't have 3 cracks at it.
Well, you got to clear the front of the net. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I don't get it. When you're facing like you guys are saying, the best player on the planet, for most people, most sane people would pick him as the best player on the planet, barely over Matthews. I get it. I know. Just that slight little thing we talked about a few days ago. Honestly, I don't understand what's going on here. And you don't want to bury the guy like Hampus Lindholm did and practically kill him in the corner, which we'll talk about later in tonight's game, which social media went on fire about.
Oh, did they?
Oh yeah. It was a dangerous play,
of course.
So we got to keep this train rolling here because not a lot of excitement to get along, but lots of turnovers and rebounds given up by Edmonton, but the Ducks can't seem to cash in. Cam Talbot, I mean, yeah, he got a shutout, but guys, he didn't do anything remarkable. He had one save later in the game, and that was outstanding. But it was kind of like they shot it into his glove type of save. The old, oh look what I found save that goalies do when they try to special attention. But now we got to talk about another thing that happened in front of the net, and that was Jesse Puljujärvi in front is allowed to get off a no-look backhand that somehow finds a hole in Gibby as Gibby's lifting his leg up, which I'm not sure. This is the one I felt Gibby should have kind of had. I get the backhand issues, kind of, goalies don't know where it's going. But Cam Fowler and Josh Manson would rather just hug a guy than tie his stick up, would not knock him on his ass. This would rather just let the guy do what he wants in front of Gibson because that's what they do tonight. And now we're looking at a 2-0 deficit. And I don't know, guys. That's sad. That's soft. That's really soft.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way the game kind of played. It was like lots of good things the Ducks were kind of doing that really weren't working out. And then when it came back in their own end, all of a sudden they played extra soft and they came back to bite him in the ass. That one sucks. The one thing Gibby's done differently this year than most goalies, and it's not something that you really taught, is the fact that he actually brings up whatever side he thinks the shot's going on. He brings up his knee, so he doesn't go in like full butterfly where the knee are down and the legs and it's a flat surface. He kind of brings it a little bit up, and he tries to bring that, and he tries to have the stick down. And I think he just read that particular backhand wrong, and that's really easy to do because if someone's got their backhand and is like this, it could easily go top shelf. They go like this, it hits off just the heel, and it never leaves the ice. So they've got all that room from top to bottom that a goalie's got to pick up. And he thought high, it went low, the stick wasn't in the right spot, and it kind of got caught there. But at the same time, you get that's a backhand shot, turn around right in front of the net. That's a rough one for a goalie to pick up.
You can't really blame John Gibson too much on that one. The fact that Puljujarvi, again, he's the only guy in front of the net, and Cam Fowler and Josh Manson are both there, and he's still able to spin around and get a backhander on net. Wasn't a lot of power behind it, but the fact that he's even able to get a shot off when he's supposed to be man-marked there by two guys, and they weren't able to do anything. And this is supposed to be one of the Ducks' best pairings that you're throwing out now that Cam Fowler's back, and you've got a guy who most of us consider probably the second best defensive defenseman on this team in Josh Manson behind Hampus Lindholm, and a guy who shouldn't get pushed off the puck by pretty much anybody, let alone Jesse Puljujarvi, who he's a tall kid, but he's not necessarily a big physical kid either. So that's one he'll want back. Josh Manson hasn't looked great all season, and he's kind of been suspect on a couple plays similar to that before. But, I mean, you look at the final score, and it doesn't do justice to how the Ducks played in this game. They had a couple defensive lapses in front of the net that the Oilers made them pay on, but it wasn't a typical 4-0 type game.
They can't beat an 800 goalie?
Nope, he's so good.
Insane. They showed his stupid stats tonight for the past 3 seasons.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. And then Josh Manson, where was he with all this physical stuff going on? Why is Nick Ritchie going after people and Manson's not involved? Getzlaf's trying to go after people. Where's Josh Manson, the guy who always has a fire lit up his ass when it gets physical? You didn't see him anywhere. And I got to talk about this because in this period, it got weird. Henrique and Draisaitl were kind of cross-checking each other at the blue line. Henrique took a couple of shots in the back, turns around, gives one to Draisaitl, and then they're both standing there talking. Darnell Nurse comes flying in like a bat out of hell, and that's a big dude, and just bowls over Henrique. Ritchie tries to get him to go. Of course, no one wants to go because the Oilers are up. What are you going to do? You're not going to cause a fight and get momentum swung the other way. And then at the end of it, it's 5-on-5, which also I don't understand that either. Some people speculated online just because Ritchie comes in with his stick high, gets Darnell Nurse. It's a rough. Okay, whatever. But none of these guys should be having to stand up for themselves when they're named Adam Henrique or Andre Kasha or Cam Fowler. Like, we know who the tough guys are, and there's just no toughness that was really shown tonight outside of Nick Ritchie. And it's just disappointing when you see a guy get taken advantage of like that. Yeah,
in that particular case, though, Adam Henrique, in my opinion, had a bug up his ass. He was pissed this game. He was in the mix on multiple other instances where he was kind of effing around with other guys. He was trying to push and pull and that sort of deal. He didn't expect Darnell Nurse to come blindside him, so I can completely understand the frustration from that aspect. I can understand Ritchie coming in and being like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" And he grabs him. I can't believe that all gets kind of washed out just because Nick Ritchie's like, "Dude, you just hit an unsuspecting player who's engaged with somebody else. You just blindsided them, and I'm going to come and tell you can't do that." And now they're both in the penalty box. We didn't get our money's worth on that one. But once again, this whole game was not just because the Ducks sucked defensively or couldn't stand up for each other. It was just a game that wasn't meant to be.
Darnell Nurse was pissed off for most of this game too. He seemed to be involved in pretty much everything when he was on the ice. Most of the physical stuff after the whistle was him usually, and not like I mean, Adam Henrique wasn't going after a guy who couldn't handle his own. He was going after Leon Draisaitl, and Darnell Nurse still felt like he had to come in and defend one of his top players, something that we haven't really seen from any of the Ducks players or the guys who are considered to be in that role, like Josh Manson or Nick Ritchie, the guys who are supposed to stick up for the top players. I mean, we all know Ryan Getzlaf can stick up for himself, but you don't want him necessarily getting involved in that type of stuff, and that's why you have guys like Nick Ritchie and Josh Manson and others who are supposed to get involved in that and kind of take that away from Ryan Getzlaf so he doesn't have to do that, so he can focus on what he's best at, which is passing the puck to guys to put it in the back of the net. So we haven't seen that. I hate when people say, it's a new NHL, we don't see any toughness anymore, we don't see any grit or whatever you want to say, but the Ducks are missing a little bit of an edge, I think, that they've had before, and teams are taking advantage of it because they're used to seeing it.
Yeah.
It's also going to be tough because, I mean, who else are you going to put in there? You're going to put a Zach Cassian and put him on the top line. It's not going to work for the Ducks because, I mean, we're going to nitpick the fact that dude's there and not really contributing. So, I mean, you're going to have that guy on the fourth line. You're not going to have him necessarily on the second line helping Adam Henrique out. So, it sucks a little bit, but at the same time, it's, pick your poison. It's either you're going to get roughed up every now and again and I'll have someone that really answer the bell necessarily every time, or you're going to have hopefully forward lines that are going to maybe contribute some offense. Right now, nothing's happening for the Ducks.
And it all started, I'm going to answer Gordon Bombay's question. It all started because it was a one more whack and it hit Cam Talbot's glove by Adam Henrique prior to this shift. It was a shift prior where Henrique comes in with one final whack on the glove. Everyone goes nuts in front of the net for literally no reason at all. It doesn't hurt the goalie. People don't get that. That glove is so incredibly padded. That kind of whack is not going to hurt a goalie. I don't care what you say. It was not.
Okay.
It wasn't
all
a
right.
chop. It was a swat at the front on the ice. No one chopped him. So that's BS.
Well, if it comes down on the back, there's no protection for a goalie. There's nothing there. If it's here, maybe you might stub a finger. But the really delicate pinky one, that's the worst.
He was fine. Talbot didn't even react.
I know.
So we got to get moving along here. Ducks go to the power play after Kessler gets high stick here down the line. And so you figure the Ducks would get the advantage, maybe get some plays. But no, I mean, you got to give up a shorthanded goal here. And it would go to Brodziak, of all people. Shorthanded, an awful goal. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins intercepts the pass at the blue line. Pretty much a 2-on-2 rush, but no one stays with Brodziak. Why would you?
Well, also you're on the power play, and that was Getzlaf, and I think Fowler was the one. The Fowler's like, hey, take this guy. He kind of does, and then everyone just kind of ends up like you just see Getzlaf just keep skating back. He doesn't know. Oh yeah, stop, go back to the middle. I gotta.
Still, you need to protect the slot. And you can't leave Gibby alone. He was left alone again.
Yeah,
I just think he was just lost in what it was. He thought maybe it was a shot, save, turnover. Now I got to go offense. I mean, that's what happens when you only have one defenseman, kinda, who's just now getting back into it. And Cam Fowler on that shorthanded rush. I mean, it sucks. You hope you do it right, but at the same time, you can't expect Getzlaf to be expert defenseman. I need to be here on a shorthanded play,
goals with lazy goals. Lazy goals.
It was a horrible turnover. I'll give you that. It was maybe a horrible. Hey, Cam Fowler says, "Hey, Ryan Getzlaf, you go get that guy who's already in front of you."
I don't know.
No,
how do you feel about that?
If it's Kyle Brodziak or Connor McDavid, there's no excuse for leaving a guy open in a prime scoring position like that. And again, it wasn't really a great goal, but Kyle Brodziak's left by himself, and he's able to squeak one past John Gibson. And again, we see people blaming Gibson for that one. Like we did for the goal prior to that. And I don't really know how it's his fault at that point when you're looking at a turnover that was horrible that we already talked about. And then the fact that Kyle Brodziak's just left wide open to pretty much do whatever he's want and pick a spot. So, I mean, it's inexcusable. Like you said, it's lazy. It's a lazy play when you let up a shorthanded goal. And it's not one of their top players, which it makes it even worse that nobody was marking him.
And this is a bad team. Oilers are not a good team.
Yeah.
This is not like the Lightning get a shorthanded rush and score. And you're like, well, Kucherov's got 1 billion points this season. Makes sense that, they'd be able to take advantage of this Ducks team that's playing like crap. This is a horrible team. The Oilers are worse than Anaheim this year. And so to see them go up 3-0 at the end of the first period is honestly just brutal. Let's just hop over here to the second, and then we'll wrap the game at this point, honestly, because it was that bad. The Ducks,
but the second period wasn't that bad.
I mean, okay, we're going to get to that.
I feel like they had like 10 full-on minutes where they were a legit better team. Just how many icings did Edmonton have? They had 0 shots for a long time.
I get that you're keeping the puck out of your zone, and the Oilers aren't getting grade A chances over and over again. But if you're not scoring on the other end to make up for your lapses in the first period, you're going to lose the game, obviously. So on the second period, the Ducks gave up pretty much a halfway breakaway to Draisaitl. Gibby makes a save. And then the Oilers would score. Draisaitl gets denied, comes back and scores. This one's really unfortunate. Lucic starts the whole play, comes in and just absolutely buries Brandon Montour in the corner. The puck deflects back out in front. Montour gives it away, and then the shot comes, gets deflected in front again, and Draisaitl's just standing alone in the slot pretty much. The puck, it was unexpected. This was the unfortunate goal of the game. It goes in, and all of a sudden it's 4-0. And then, of course, big tough Milan Lucic, who, by the way, I really liked back in the day. I like the guy. Skates by Brandon Montour, who's obviously upset, threw his head up to the air.
He's not even looking at him. Yeah.
Trash talks Monty. Monty turns on and shoves him, says something.
Barely a shove.
Barely, no. But then Monty grabs him and puts him in a headlock, and then Lucic's
once Lucic comes back, then he pulls him in a headlock. I'm not going to get sucker punched by some Cro-Magnon fuck.
Yeah, so then the gorilla just decides that he's like, oh yeah, I weigh 700 pounds.
I'm just going to sit on you for a while.
I'm going to lay on you with my forearm, digging your visor into your head so it'll cut you open there. Getzlaf goes over and grabs Draisaitl, laughs at him.
That's it. That's all he can do.
This should have been a line brawl, right? Nah, it
doesn't happen anymore. That's the closest you get now.
I think we all are on board with the fact that we wanted to see fights because we were so upset by this game, but in reality, stepping outside of it, we all don't like that kind of crap because someone ends up getting hurt, and it's is that really necessary? It's
there really wasn't a reason for it. This game really wasn't dirty. I mean, there was that little moment, and then other than that, it was fair. I mean, it was fairly clean. There wasn't much about it. The Edmonton Oilers got the. Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are left over from that playoff series, so they all don't like each other, and I feel like that was why we saw so much chippiness after the whistle. But nothing really happened prior in any previous meetings between these guys this season or in this game.
They've only had one other game. So.
Yeah, so these guys just don't like each other.
They got 2 more games in Edmonton, so we'll see what happens.
There we go, right? And
one of them will be one of our watch parties, though.
So there was 200 McDavid fans in Honda Center night, at least. There was 97 jerseys everywhere. And then the play that kind of everyone's talking about online right now is McDavid goes into the corner, initiates contact with Hampus Lindholm because he knows that Lindholm's on top of him. Lindholm kind of gets his helmet popped up, gives the short little cross check as McDavid goes into the corner.
The tiniest of all cross checks.
It doesn't matter, man. We see these plays. It's in a dangerous area, dude. And
you think it's a bad one? You think it should have been a penalty?
Oh, it should have been a 2-minute board, 100%. And if McDavid's hurt, that's further, 100%. You can't do that. You can't shove a guy in the back like that going to the boards. It doesn't matter. They're going in at a high speed. And to me, it's a bad play, and it went uncalled. And I'm not asking for Lindholm's head. It probably should have been a penalty here. And that's what's online right now. And people are taking this way beyond a 2-minute call. Holy hell! It's suspension worthy. It's
banned for life. Yeah. Marty McSorley bad.
It's insane. No, I'm just saying I agree with the fact that it definitely was worth a look to go to the box. Someone came over and tried to give Lindholm a hard time about it, and then Lindholm's not going to fight. Give me a break. No. So it went on and on from there. The game ends. Ducks, we're going to skip the third period, boys, because nothing really of anything happened. Oh, other than Kessler hitting the post, he almost scored. That was the big highlight, and then Gibbons threw it to the glove.
Big thing lately is he's almost scored. He's had chances.
Oh, wow. You know what I say about post? Wow.
Yeah, there you go. That's Lights, the CEO over in Dallas,
Yes.
Given
channeling
the old talking to, right? You better play
the
better.
Old talking to.
And the old guy in
Tyler Seguin's been lighting it up since Jamie
I know, right?
With injury.
Non-stop.
Boy,
Daddy
that guy's
came sitting there and he's probably like, "Yep, I did my job." They're playing
well
now.
Oh yeah, I know, right? The second they actually get a goal, he's like, "I did that."
Yeah.
That was me.
All right, boys. So the game ends 4-0. Shots were 31-19 in favor. At the end, 39-24 in favor of Anaheim. At the end of that, I was looking at the end of the second period. But
go figure, Cam Tablet getting a
he didn't even look that good. He didn't even look that good.
He had a lot of easy shots. Yeah. They were just He had a lot of good looks. There wasn't much traffic in front. The Ducks missed that so much.
So a couple of quick hits here that were noticed. We talked a little bit about it. Obviously, people online are also chirping about this as well. But no Ducks players interviewed tonight at all during the intermissions, which doesn't happen often. I don't remember the last time it's happened. I could even put a season how long it's been.
Yeah,
but
they'll do it when they're being shut out, like when they're not even close.
Dude, I don't know what you're talking about.
I think they'll do it when I think that it's a combination of things. They were on a 7-game losing streak. They were down 3-0 after the first period. No way you're going to get an interview from anybody at the end of the first. You're now down 4-0 at the end of the second. None of those guys are going to come out of the locker room and want to do an interview at that point. Nobody's going to want to do it.
I'm just saying it's rare.
Like if they were like 500.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. If they were 500 at this point, and then they were losing 4-0, like they hadn't lost 7 before this, maybe you see somebody come out in the second and be like, "What are you guys going to do to get back in this game?" Something like that. But at this point, you're about to lose 8 in a row, longest losing streak of the season. They're not going to put.
They're not going to put their players out like, "Hey, tell the whole fan base why we suck for the last 2 games of this one while we're on a 7-game losing streak."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to say at that point?
You tell them how we're going to turn it around.
I mean, they should just interview John Gibson, right? Because I'm sure he would have plenty to say.
Let's just interview me. Well, you just got to put one skate in front of the other. Put your head down, play your game.
Pucks on, get the pucks in deep.
Pucks on net.
Cam talked after the game.
Oh, well, yeah. Cammy's got to talk after the game. It's his first game back.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cam Fowler, guys, how do you feel like he did overall? Of course, we're not happy that he was on the ice for 2 goals. It's his first game back, sure. But, he missed 24 games. It's a solid chunk of the season. So, with respect to his, his puck-moving ability and his skating, to me, looked right on par where he was. But it's hard to say that he's the only one who looked out of sorts on defense tonight. I would say Anaheim's defense as a whole was brutal. Mostly the second and third pairings.
No, for sure. Hampus Lindholm was, to me, probably the only one who looked decent or good in this game. Brandon Montour, close second, but Manson in particular didn't look great. That bottom pairing was awful. They weren't good. Not to say even bringing Jakob Larsson in would have made that bottom pairing any better, but Cam Fowler looked a step behind, which is, you can kind of understand that, the fact that he's missed so many games, and he's probably a little tentative to get involved too much after just destroying his face, right? So he's probably a little bit. He's going to hold back a little bit, I think, for the first few games before he really gets going. But he didn't look awful. You kind of saw what you expect to see from Cam Fowler, just maybe minus a little bit from him. But over the next few games, he'll probably get back into it again, get a feel for it. But I think honestly, it'll take him 8 to 10 games before he's really back and fully fit and ready to go. He missed a considerable amount of time. That's hard to come back from, especially in the middle of the season.
Yeah, Ray Ferraro said. Sorry, Jay. Ray Ferraro said when he talked about Nylander, it's 2 weeks when he was questionable. 2 weeks for a guy to come back and feel comfortable in the NHL game.
Yeah, and you could tell that the Ducks defense looked out of sorts, especially for the first half of the game, where they're all kind of trying to figure out, all right, Cam's back and Manson's over here and Lindholm's over here and Montour's over there, and then everything kind of changes a little bit. So they seemed weak. The whole team on defense seemed like a C+ at best, maybe C. And I know they could be doing better. They're passing, not only from the defense. This is the problem I've had with the Ducks when they lose is count how many consecutive passes they can make from the defenseman who gets it up to the first forward, that first forward making the next pass. If they can do 3 good passes, they look great. These guys, when they struggle, they can maybe get 1, if they're lucky 2, but usually it's like in the feet or a guy who's going to get stopped. So it just seemed, once again, this game was kind of like what's been happening is that those passes just aren't tape to tape or hitting somebody in stride where they can make something happen. They seem stuck. Their passing is pretty bad recently.
Any other thing to add to that, Eddie, about our passing? I mean, the Ducks also had 3 power plays and didn't look great there either. Specialty teams isn't amazing, but I would have to agree with you, Jay. The passing has been pretty bad.
Are you surprised the special teams hasn't looked great? I mean, It hasn't looked great all year. The only times it's looked somewhat good is lately with Daniel Sprong has looked like he's fit in pretty well.
And that's the second line.
Yeah, and it's the second pairing. We even talked about maybe that he should go up on the first unit and see what he can do there. Or we, for a long time said that Brandon Montour should be the trigger man on the power play. They haven't got to that. Maybe giving Daniel Sprong a look, because he's got 2 power play goals recently, would be something good to possibly do that. But no, their power play has looked awful all year. I'm not too surprised that it wasn't great in this game. Even in the Oilers' penalty kill isn't great either. And they were missing Chris Russell, who is a shot blocking machine and pretty much just that. And he's usually on their top penalty kill unit, so they were missing that, and the Ducks still couldn't do anything. But yeah, the passing at times, I think in this game, yeah, it was kind of all over the place. But we've seen that a lot recently, where the Ducks, they put up a lot of shots in this game, but they didn't get really that many quality scoring chances generated from all those shots. They had a couple ones where Cam Talbot had to make some good saves, like you said. Kessler hit the post, but when you look at the amount of shots they had, it wasn't indicative to the amount of scoring chances they had. And it reminds me of how the Carolina Hurricanes have played all this season, where everybody's talked about what a good puck possession team they are, and they generate so much offense, yet they can't score any goals. And the Ducks kind of seem to put in that type of effort tonight, where on paper, if you don't look at the score, you're like, oh, the Ducks should have won this game. They had most of the possession. They had some decent scoring chances here or there, yet they put up no goals.
Well, interesting note. Gordon Bombay brought up in chat on this side. He goes, hey, did I miss Brandon Montour wasn't on the power play? I go to Natural Stat Trick, look at the 5-on-4 power play situations. He saw 1 second of power play time. Lindholm with none, Josh Manson with none. The lion's share went to Cam Fowler, Ryan Kessler with 4 minutes each. The other defenseman that played a bunch on the power play was Josh Murrah. And that's it. It's amazing to me. Why are you not playing Brandon Montour there? I don't understand the coaching staff.
I don't know why. I still don't know why. I don't get it. We've been saying this for the last 5 games.
They're not going to play their best offensive defenseman right now.
Yeah, they only play 1 defenseman on that top pairing, and that's going to be Cam Fowler apparently right now. So, I think with Cam Fowler out, they probably put in Montour, right?
I would hope so. Why are you putting Mahura? Why are you not putting Brandon Montour there? I don't understand that either.
Yeah, on the second line. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Other than, was he in the penalty box for one of the power plays for him and Lucic going together? But no, everything evened out on that one.
Even if he was, he played 1 second. He wasn't. Yeah. There's no way he wasn't available.
He literally stepped on the ice as the penalty ended.
That's exactly all it was.
Yeah.
So
let's count it to 0.
Let's get to our questions, because a lot of them have to do with the biggest news of the night, honestly, which is...
what did I eat? Oh, it was good. It was pizza.
Fire Randy Carlyle is now back in everyone's feeds, everywhere across social media. Thanks to Kevin Weeks from NHL Network, which he doesn't firestorm. Bogus stuff. He's not the type. He's not a Ken Campbell guy. It's going to come out and just say some random ass crap. So, honestly,
right, slide against Ken Campbell. Got it.
Ken Campbell's a bit of a maniac. He's a bit of a maniac. So that's what I got to say about old Kenny. But let's get to our questions. Let's start with, Norm has a bunch of them. So we'll start.
Oh, cheers.
We'll start with him there. He says, why don't we check more? There's the first question. Second one, we used to be a tough team. Why can't we just play hard, good hockey? What's with all the cutesy moves that backfire? So essentially what he's saying is, why do we suck?
Or why don't we play like we used to? Why doesn't what we used to?
Yeah, why aren't we the old Ducks?
Because it doesn't work.
Why do we give up the puck so easily? Why are we still passing so much? And why does it seem like players don't care anymore? I don't agree with the last one. I think players definitely care on this team. I just feel like the coaching staff and systems are absolutely brutal. And with the type of talent on this team, you would think they'd be able to find a way to win. I don't understand why it's so hard for this team to beat the Planet's team when they come to town with 1.5 good players, and they're playing on the same line. Or 1.5 elite players. I wouldn't necessarily call Draisaitl elite. That's what I meant. He's like kind of, He's just hanging on to.
Oh my God! All right, so we'll have a conversation about that later.
You think Draisaitl's elite? Holy hell!
I guess we're going into it now.
No,
Draisaitl's
not a forward. No.
All right, he's borderline elite. I think he's all right. Anyways, moving on.
Good Lord. So why are we playing not like we used to? Why are we not playing the Ducks brand of hockey that we're used to?
You can't do it anymore. You can't do necessarily the physical style of it where it's dump, grind it out, get it to the front, and you got a problem? All right, hey, Peros, get in here and start punching people. It's not that
He's talking about checking, not really fighting. You know what I mean? He's talking about playing a checking game. The Ducks always play
checking in an intimidation game. The Ducks don't really have that intimidation factor. You don't have bigger guys anymore. I mean, some of our most prolific point getters are Kasha and Raquel. You wouldn't really consider them top end where they're gonna get in your face. I mean, Getzlaf's there. He's a big bruiser, but other than that, on the back end, we're pretty light. And on the fronts, we are too. I mean, we used to be a little bit more in your face when we had the Getzlaf and Kessler and Perry. That's just not the Ducks anymore. I mean, at this point, it's we need to be faster. We need to be able to try and score off of the rush, off of turnovers. And at this point, the Ducks are kind of stuck in between the old style and the new style, in my opinion.
Yeah, it just doesn't work to play that style that they used to play. It was a high-pressure forecheck style where they would just grind you out along the boards after a kind of a dump-and-chase style, which we've seen them still try and play, at least utilizing the dump-and-chase part of it. But the forecheck isn't there. It's a one-man forecheck. The Ducks used to just push 3 forwards forward, and they would just grind you out along the boards, and they'd just be a physically imposing team. And then they would work the cycle down low by using those big bodies on the boards on the side. So it just doesn't work. That style of hockey just doesn't work. Everybody in the West used to play that way, or the good teams in the West used to play that. The Ducks were one of the best at it. They just didn't really have the personnel to keep up with some of the teams who were better than them. When you look at the LA Kings and the Chicago Blackhawks, just the talent they had throughout their roster, not just the size but the skill, is why the Ducks couldn't get over that hump. But everybody's moved away from that. And you look at the 3 teams who did it the most successfully in Chicago, LA, and Anaheim, and none of them are doing good this year because I feel like they're struggling to move on to a different system with that same core. All 3 teams are struggling to do that. When you look at what the core they had when they were successful, the Ducks still have that same core. Probably the closest, I think, to transitioning into a different type of style with a younger team moving forward and a lot of the older guys moving out. But you just can't win that way anymore. And the Ducks haven't really found that new identity because they've had the same coach who used to win with that style back even when he was with Toronto. Even when they were bad, he tried to implement that style in Toronto as well. And he's tried to bring it over and maybe shift it into the modern day. Hasn't worked at all, obviously. The Ducks have been inconsistent all year. Because like you said, they have the talent to play well. And we saw that when they won 9 of their 9 out of 10 games. I think it was 12 out of 13 games where they were actually scoring goals and the talent was there. And then there'll be times where the goal scoring dries up, the flaws in the system come out. And the Ducks had a 7-game losing streak earlier this year. Now they're on an 8-game losing streak. Really no signs of that ending anytime soon. Even with the Ottawa Senators coming to town who are on an 8-game losing streak of their own, normally you'd go into that game and you'd be like, oh, this is an easy win. But the way the Ducks have been playing, it's anybody's game, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I think what you're trying to say, to wrap this all up in one neat, perfect bow, is it's Randy Carlyle's fault. And that's my takeaway here. It's Bobby and Randy Carlyle. The systems that are implemented. It's almost like you wish Randy Carlyle had a history of playing really bad when he was in charge of teams before the Ducks hired him. Very strange that he had no history of looking like a really crappy coach before Bob Murray invited his best friend over for a job.
I feel like
it's unbelievable to me.
I feel like Bob Murray knows what will work, and he's got a coach, unfortunately, in there that thinks defense, grinding, and just out hustling the team will once again win the day if you can do that. And I feel like Bob Murray's like, listen, we need great defense. That's how it's going to work, but you can't play defense first. Why he keeps thinking Carlyle's going to help him out, I don't know, because at this point, I feel Carlyle's whole philosophy is exhausted and obviously proven not to work. It worked that one time 11 years ago, and we're entering 12 years later, and he's had pretty much zero success since then.
Please, I could have coached that team. Give me Timu. Give me 90-point Timu. Give me
Eddie Mack.
Corey Perry in the beginning of their careers, lighting it up. How about a guy named Scott Niedermeyer carrying the team?
Two Niedermeyers. You didn't need one. You got two.
Unbelievable that anyone gives any sort of credit to Randy Carlyle for winning a team or getting a team and letting him win a Stanley Cup. It's so garbage. That's
worked
ridiculous.
Back there anyways.
He did nothing. Clarissa points out on Twitter, rumblings going on that the Ducks might see a coaching change soon after 8 straight losses and being shut up by the Oilers. Do you think it actually happens? This is in line with Ricky Bradley, who says, is magical 8th game enough to send Carlyle out the door? It is strange that it's finally coming around to where a prominent member of the media, someone who I really enjoy watching on Angel Network, Kevin Weeks, comes up. He's not that guy that just tweets random crap out that he hears. He must know something or heard something that's inside somewhere. Otherwise,
is he replacing Bob McKenzie?
So
yeah,
no, he's not an
that's
inside
the thing, though. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
How many times do we hear Kevin Weeks' name to say, "Oh, he's breaking news"? Usually, I mean this. I'm not saying he's wrong, and he definitely is a respected member of the media, but I'm not getting my hopes up yet. Yeah, it's a bit different from the last time when we heard nothing, and it was just all speculation on our part, looking at other coaches getting fired and saying, how can the Ducks not fire Randy Carlyle at this point after losing 7 games in a row? Now you're at 8, and now we've actually finally heard something. I don't know what he's hearing. It was in the middle of the game, too, where he tweeted this out. I'd love to know who the source was, obviously, and find out what information he had. A little bit vague, too, because he says, like, the near future. So whether that's he's hearing that they're looking to fire him.
That's an easy out. Easy out.
Week, he's got a lot of leeway now. He didn't say that he's going to get fired tomorrow. He said in the
near future. Why say anything, then? That's why I feel like he has to have heard or known something.
Sure. I think he has. I just he left it kind of open, I think, on purpose, because I don't think it's set in stone yet. Like, for sure he's getting fired. I think maybe.
And you got to remember, too, the NHL's a real tight-knit group, these guys. They're not going to go out and root for a guy to lose his job. No. So unless he knew 100%, he's not going to go out and give that answer. But in my opinion, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's going to happen. Carlyle's got a seat in the press box or traveling for the team as a scout in some capacity. That was talked about several months ago, I think, with Eric Stevens or another writer for the Register, or I can't remember the damn writer's name. But anyway, they had already talked about it. The fact it might have been where they talked about how Randy's already got a place in the organization after his coaching tenure is done with. Okay. So I don't think they're going to fire him.
No, at this point, it's. I mean, who are they getting? I mean, they could replace him with Quenneville, but once again,
oh hell no!
Yeah,
oh my
that's
god!
The thing, who do they bring in?
Who they bring in, and they don't, and they kind of got an easy out, I guess. If you want to say, hey, listen, this year blew. We had so many injuries that we never saw coming.
That was last year,
field, and it was I know it's every year. It's every year. The Ducks are almost always leading the league in man games lost due to injury or long-term injury. I mean, it's just it's insane how much they have to go through. But, at this point, it's like, well, listen, at the beginning of the season, if you look on paper, our roster was pretty good, at least good enough to get in the playoffs and go from there. And now we missed out on a whole bunch of people that we didn't anticipate missing out on. Raquel, with Lindholm being injured, and Fowler being injured. It's just there's too many outs for Bob Murray not to get a little bit, to get a free pass. And unfortunately, Carlyle will just be kind of the casualty at the end of the season. I don't think it's before that.
Well, the thing is, their hopes
otherwise,
are still
that's
alive.
Bob Murray. Bob Murray would also be admitting a mistake. Oh, let's just get rid of him, bring somebody else in. My vision didn't work this time. Be like, listen, last 2 years, the first year we had him, we went to the conference final. Last 2 years, nothing but injuries. We're screwed. What are you gonna do to us?
How do you escape when a team that is supposed to, or that we thought was a playoff team? How do you escape 2 7+ losing streaks in a season and not get fired middle of the season? And the thing is, the Ducks, like I said, they're still in a playoff spot. And unless Minnesota capitalizes on the games they have in hand against the Ducks, either way, the Ducks aren't going to be far out of a playoff spot, even if Minnesota does move into that final wild card, which is ridiculous when you've had 2 losing streaks of 7 or more, and you're still hanging on to a playoff spot. That tells you how bad the bottom part of the Western Conference has been. But
they're also 9 points out of being in last place.
Yeah.
That's a 5-game losing streak, and everyone else winning.
Yeah, it's been a mess at the bottom of the Western Conference. Teams like Vancouver maybe doing better than people thought. Arizona just kind of hanging around. Edmonton even just slightly hanging around, especially with that win tonight. They pick up points against the Ducks and move a little bit closer to them. It's really, you've got the very, very good teams in the West, and then you've got mediocre teams. There's like no middle ground. It's Nashville, Winnipeg, Calgary, San Jose, Vegas now lately, and then everybody else is right below them.
Yeah, and it's like what you guys are saying, who they're going to bring in. You can't pull, if you fire Randy Carlyle, you can't pull in Dallas Eakins off a red hot Gulls team. You can't. You're not going to do that to those guys. And then you got to replace him at that point too. So they don't really have anyone that they could go to, and they're not gonna pay Quinville to come to a garbage team right now and be like, hey man, remember how you won a bunch of cups? You want to come to this team when you were maybe thinking about retirement and take on a rebuild here? But it's unfortunate because as much as you want to crush Randy Carlyle for the season, you kind of have to point fingers at Bob Murray, because Bob Murray brought him back. Bob Murray signs a guy like Kevin Bieksa. Bob Murray gives a ridiculous contract out to, and I get it. We didn't know he was going to get injured, but to Ryan Kessler at his age, there's a number of questionable moves that Bob Murray has done, and he refuses to go back on his mistakes. He's not trading away guys. He's not firing his coach. So, I mean, how long until we look at Bobby and go, hey, man, we appreciate you draft well and all, but...
not anymore. I signed an extension.
Nope, there's nothing going on, man. I know, right? Yeah.
Listen,
so,
I'm fully behind the extension because we already talked about the fact that the Ducks need to know who's going to be in charge for the Seattle expansion draft. I get that. But you look at probably the main reason, in some sense, I think a lot of people agree with this, why the Ducks didn't get over the edge and make the Stanley Cup Finals is because they weren't willing to take that risk and go out and get that one piece they needed. They never did it.
Yep.
They were too safe with their prospects, which I get. Sometimes you have to be. You don't know what you're going to be getting in return. But when you think of last year, they could have gone out and got Evander Kane, and look what he's done with San Jose. Not to say last year he would have pushed them over the edge, but look when the Ducks were actually going far in the playoffs, getting to the Western Conference Finals. They didn't go out and get that guy that pushed them over the edge. And when there was a lot of guys available that might have done that, they went over and got James Wisniewski. Didn't play him. Give up pieces for him. They always went for the bargain. Of course, everybody knows the nickname in Bargain Bob. But that's one of the main reasons. And eventually we'll have to look at Bob Murray. But now he signed an extension. He's here until the Seattle expansion draft. And I think that sets it up perfectly for if the Ducks at that point want to look at a new direction. They're going to have a very young team with possibly a lot of these guys not here. When you look at the core leadership of this team, we would assume Ryan Getzlaf gets a contract. We don't know, because they could easily just move on from Getzlaf, Perry, and Kessler if they wanted to, and have a completely new core players to work with.
Oh, poor Bob Murray.
hey, I'm not saying fire the guy, but when are we gonna point the finger? You know what I mean? People kind of do here and there, but it's mostly on Randy, and he's kind of play the cards he's been given, and he's not a great coach, but this team is kind of.
Did we really have to shit on Bob Murray? He just hit 1,000 games as a GM. He joined an elite club.
Let's put up a banner.
How
Let's
much
go
you
the
love the
Predators' way.
elite.
Let's go the Predators' way. Let's put up a banner. I don't dislike Bob Murray, but his unwillingness to
you
make
just hate
changes
what
as
he
a
orders
player.
in a coffee stop when you're there
His
with him.
unwillingness to make changes is what bugs me the most. Garrett asked, do you guys think that Eves ever plays again? That's a lot of speculation.
Wasn't he skating recently?
Who knows? I don't know. You don't hear about him. You hear about Ricardo.
I heard he was skating.
Dude.
Or it was at the rink at least.
I mean, at the beginning of the season, we heard he was skating, and then it took him a long time to actually get ready to
get back, and then the one game he finally, not sure. This is last season, or you still have one more after this? There's one more after, right?
Let's see.
I
want to say.
I think he has one more. I don't think
one more after
this
this
or anything at the end of this year. Other than
I think he's got one more. I think they signed him for 3, and last year was the first. This is the second.
Yeah, he's got one more year on his contract. I just looked it up.
Does he ever play again? Yes.
I think he's played 6 games in 1.5 seasons.
I'm sure he plays again at some point, but because I'm pretty sure the illness is behind him. Is it not?
It was a fake illness.
Now it was a shoulder thing. He's got all. The guy's had a rough 2 years, man.
That's rough, a misdiagnosis. I won't call it a fake illness. It's not like he's like, oh, I'm sick, can't play for a year. Thanks for my $3 million. It was mostly like, oh, hey, you have this. You have to really stop doing everything. They're like, oh wait, no, you don't have that. Go back.
They didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
They didn't know what it was.
Yeah, they didn't know what it was. And then he got a shoulder injury.
So Chris has a good question, but it's a loaded one. So maybe we pause on it until we get closer to the trade deadline because he says, list and cover all the changes you would make in the offseason with this team. Coaching, buyouts, extensions, call-ups, and more. That's a lot.
He's being a douche. He says, like, oh, hey, you want questions? I'll give you one that'll take 8 hours to answer.
Yeah, but in like a short summary.
What a douche.
They probably sell Silfverberg at the deadline, new coach next year, possibly buy out Ryan Kessler. That's the 3 things I can see that happens. If you're looking at big things that can happen, those are probably 3 of the biggest things that they could do.
And you're going to see, next year, you're probably going to see Steele and Terry make the team. That's what I would also think.
Has a shot as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
they re-signed Penner.
Oh, Jesus.
We win a cup.
This is not Chris Smith. It's another Chris.
Oh, it's a different Chris. Oh, sorry,
yeah, it's a different Chris, man. I was like, no. It's not the Chris likes to argue with us.
The one who was just like being a douche. That's what I thought it was. Sorry, other Chris.
So Keith on Instagram says, what jersey will Silfverberg look best in when he's traded? Oh, that's a sad question. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, he's got like gray or blue eyes, right? So I think he'd look good in like Toronto or Tampa colors.
Does he
anything East Coast?
Look best, or like what team do you think he'll fit?
No, I think he's being facetious here. I mean, obviously,
he looks beautiful in any jersey.
Carolina could use them because they can't score any goals. They could always score.
Silfverberg can't score right now either.
Really? He can't score either. He's on our team, and we could use goal scoring.
Yeah.
Tom Walsh from Facebook says, do we even have a set plan or play in our power play? We just look lost when we're out there. The Ducks can't even bring it into the zone cleanly. That's been a problem all year. They still do that whole let's drop pass it at center ice. And
they do that on the first line.
They do that almost every game, and the guy rushes in. Everyone's standing still, and then he's running into a line of players at the blue line. It's an awful decision.
It works when you have a Raquel or a Kasha and a Getzlaf. So whoever you're dropping it back to, someone that can weave their way in. Because literally when you're moving in this way, it makes the defenseman and the forwards back up. And if you can drop it, now they all have to stop and have to re-guess where they're going to go. Are they going to be aggressive? They're going to come back.
I think it's a terrible.
It works for easy entry. It doesn't work for the actual setup or how many shots get to the net, but at least get you in without having to fucking dump it all the way in the corner, and then hopefully you get it back. So I understand that, and they only do on the top line. The second line's different, and the second line's had more success. I don't know. It's just...
it's brutal.
It's what they do.
An update on Patrick Eaves. He said his goalie coach is the emergency backup goalie, and he's been skating with Eaves, Fowler, and Raquel for the past 3 weeks. So Eaves has been skating, it seems like, and he says that Eaves has also been skating and shooting the puck. I don't know how close he is, but at least he's been skating with Raquel and Fowler, who were rehabbing and coming back from injury. So maybe he's close. I mean, obviously...
And if it's a shoulder injury and he's shooting, then that means there's at least some movement, some mobility.
We assume.
Another question here says, Nick Webb said, let's bring some positivity going on the show. To each guy on the show, what is the coolest moment in Ducks history you saw in person? So Eddie's been to 3 games. Eddie, what was your favorite?
It was this year, obviously, with Paul Courrier getting his jersey retired. I don't have too many to pick from because the only 2 games I've been to Anaheim for were big moments. It was the Stadium Series and then this year with the jersey retirement. None of the games I went to in Toronto were memorable because the Ducks lost all of them anyway, and they weren't big games to begin with. So easy for me because I only have 2 to pick from. So,
Jay?
That would probably be when I was younger, and I got to go to the very first Game 7 against the Phoenix Coyotes at that time versus the Ducks. Game 7, we won 3-0. That was the first time the Ducks won a playoff round. First time we were in the playoffs. I screamed so loud I couldn't hear myself because everyone else was louder than me.
So I'm going to go back to one of the coolest things I remember being at. This is back when the tough guys were still in the league, early 2000s, maybe even late 90s here. But Stu Grimson mauled the same guy twice, Vandenbush. He fought 3 times that game, beat up Vandenbush, beat up another guy, and then beat up Vandenbush so bad there was blood all over the ice. This is back when it was like, hey, we're going to go. And no one ever messes with the Grim Reaper, and it's just brutal. It was absolutely brutal. That was fun to watch. Thankfully, Vandenbush is okay. I don't know if his nose was. But another one that I thought was cool that I was able to see in person, obviously being able to go to Temu's retirement and to be able to go to Ria's retirement would probably be those, because I was not fortunate enough to be at the comeback on Catella or to be at the Stanley Cup. So obviously those would be the big ones that I missed out on. So
Solana and Korea for me as well.
Yeah, those were goodies. And then a funny one here: the Ducks losing on purpose to get rid of RC. That's from Lauren on Facebook. I thought that was a good one. And then that's lose for Hughes. That was also on here as well. Joseph from on Facebook says, "Lose for Hughes, hire Gronborg, embrace the tank."
Some other teams have a big head start on them, so I don't think they're.
Oh yeah, it's like the Kings. The Kings have a large head start.
So.
Gordon
like I said,
asks,
we're only 9 points away from last in the West.
That's a long way to go, man.
That's 5 wins.
A lot of teams like
5
losing.
Losses.
Yeah, I know, but with this stage in the season, it's hard to.
I know. If you go 8 losses, it's very rare you continue on for another 5 games. So I'm sure the Ducks will find their way to win. They're not.
Yeah, but other teams lose too that already have a head start. Gordon Bombay asked, "Are we going to Scotty's retirement?" Jason, you going to Scotty's retirement?
When is that? It's February, right? Late February? 27th?
It is in February.
I think it's the 27th.
Yeah, the end of the month, right?
Who's asking?
Oh, no, that's Gordon Bombay in chat asking if we're going to be at the game.
Oh, yeah. If he gives me a ticket, I'm there.
It's February 17th, to be specific, against Washington.
I don't currently have tickets, but I might find a way.
He's in the market. If anyone has freebies, Jason's a cheapskate and would love to go.
That's not true. I might.
He would gladly buy you beer.
I might have a connection to get
in. So I think those are all the questions that I was able to find here. If I missed some, I apologize. We had a ton of them. We appreciate that. But We have a watch party coming up this upcoming Sunday against the Jets. So
Do it.
Ducks have Ottawa, then they have Pittsburgh, and then they have the Jets, if I remember correctly.
It's a 3 p.m. game.
We'll be there around 2:30.
Could
Yes.
have a 10-game losing streak.
No!
With a brand new coach.
We have some good giveaways coming around for sure. We'll do those again.
Yes.
Apple stuff off. Those of you in Patreon get some extra tickets for sure into those cups. If you're showing up here, even if you're not, you at least get a few in the bucket just because you're on Patreon to contribute. But that's going to be at the same place that we always go, which is Lamppost Pizza in West Yorba Linda. It's all over our Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'll post it again here tomorrow, and just keep everyone aware. It is a weird time, and it is the NFL playoffs, so I get that it's, some people might have plans or interested in not watching a Ducks might be on a 10-game losing streak. Thanks, Eddie. But we'll be there.
We'll be there, and we'll be kicking out all the football people so that we can watch hockey in the bar room.
Yeah, so if you just want to show up for that, we'd love to see
that alone.
Yeah, that alone's a reason to go to piss off football fans, unless you, of course, are a football fan. But shout out to CoolHockey.com. They're the ones who do our Forever Mighty 3-star giveaways that Eddie puts together all the questions, and then Forever Mighty does the beautiful thing, which is if you win, they ship you a jersey at the end of the month. You pick it, you customize it, but in the meantime, if you don't want to wait and you want to purchase a jersey, get 20% off by using our promo code FM20, FM20 at checkout. We'll get you 20% off your jersey at CoolHockey.com. I think that's it. For you Patreon peeps, we're doing a rant show tomorrow night, and I've got plenty to be upset about, even not Ducks related. So in here. And you guys have anything else to add in before we close it out?
I love you guys.
As Jason loves everybody. Eddie, are you good? Are you frozen in Colorado? In Canada?
And cold.
I'm ready to call it a night. I'm exhausted. And that game was just didn't help too much.
Well, there you guys have it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys for sure on Wednesday.
Thanks for ruining my show, by the way. That's it. I'm sorry you guys had to sit through that, but this is an obligation, contract obligation, they told me. So my kneecaps are sweating and I really got to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to have to let you guys go. Thank you. Bye.